Most people's survival plan is basically guns, ammo, and a pile of canned beans tall enough to hide behind. That sounds like a plan. It has nouns in it. It feels like preparation. But here's the thing nobody wants to hear, and I say this with complete respect to every person who has spent 3 hours comparing holster options on Reddit. Weapons are actually one of the worst things to fixate on as your primary survival strategy. Think about it. In a real prolonged crisis, the guy waving a gun around isn't the guy who made it. The guy who made it was the quiet neighbor nobody bothered because he had water, heat, and enough food that he never had to leave his apartment looking desperate. You don't get shot in a survival situation because you're unarmed. You get shot because someone knew you had something worth taking. The best defense isn't a better weapon. It's not looking like a target in the first place. And if that just made you mad, good. Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I will personally thank you for proving my point about misplaced priorities. A gun with no clean water is just a heavy, expensive way to feel confident right up until the moment you get sick from drinking contaminated water and there's no hospital to go to. And we know this not because it sounds logical on paper, but because people actually lived it. Survivors of Sarajevo siege, one of the longest urban collapses in modern history, have spoken about this in detail. Months with no electricity, no running water, no functioning stores. Just figure it out or don't. And what they wished they had stockpiled had nothing to do with firepower. It was the boring stuff, the stuff so obvious that nobody thought to prepare for it. That's exactly what we're covering today, the 5 supplies that vanish within the first 48 hours when things go sideways. Not from some survival influencer with a bunker sponsor, from people who actually lived it. For those of you who clicked expecting weapons and MREs, I'm mildly sorry, but you need this more than you need another video about tactical flashlights. The first thing to vanish, and this is the one that catches people completely flat-footed, is water containers. Not water, containers. Here's why that distinction matters so much. During the Sarajevo siege, water wasn't always completely unavailable. Sometimes there were working wells, community taps, even occasional pipe pressure. The problem was that people had nothing to carry it in. Think about your house right now. Go ahead, picture it. How many dedicated water storage containers do you own? And no, a half-empty Gatorade bottle doesn't count. Most people own essentially zero, and when the taps go dry, everyone runs to the same hardware stores, the same camping supply shops, the same dollar stores at the exact same time. And within 24 to 48 hours, those shelves are completely stripped. Survivors specifically mentioned that people were carrying water in cooking pots, buckets meant for mopping floors, whatever they could find. And if you've ever tried to carry a mop bucket 6 blocks in a panic, I think you already understand the problem. The fix is genuinely simple and cheap. Get yourself a few 5-gallon water jugs, the rigid stackable kind, not the flimsy ones. Water bob inserts that fit in your bathtub are great for rapid fill-up before pressure drops. And a quality water filter like a Sawyer or Berkey means even questionable water becomes drinkable water. Store the containers now while they're $4 each and nobody's panicking, because the moment something happens, they're gone. This is genuinely the lowest effort prep on this entire list, and somehow it's still the one most people skip entirely. Which brings us to tip number 2, cooking fuel, because now you have water, you need to actually heat it. Coleman fuel, propane canisters, alcohol fuel, white gas, all of it disappears almost immediately. And this isn't just a Sarajevo thing. You can see echoes of this during Hurricane Katrina, during extended blackouts in Texas, during any scenario where the power grid goes down for more than a day or two. People suddenly realize they have no way to cook, no way to boil water to make it safe, no way to heat anything, and the small camping stove fuel section at your local outdoor retailer holds, what, maybe 40 or 50 canisters on a good day? That's gone in an afternoon when an entire neighborhood shows up at once. What Sarajevo survivors specifically emphasized was that the people who made it through most comfortably, and I use comfortably very loosely here, were the ones who had thought about fuel redundancy, multiple heat sources, not just one method. A propane camp stove with several backup tanks is a great start, but also consider a simple wood-burning rocket stove, which runs on sticks and costs almost nothing to operate. Alcohol stoves are dead simple and the fuel stores for a very long time. Even a supply of Sterno cans gives you something. The goal isn't to have one perfect solution, it's to have options so that when one runs out, and it will, you still have a way to boil that water you stored in tip number 1. See how this is all connecting? That's not an accident. Real survival is a system, not a checklist. Next tip is ammunition, and I know exactly what you're going to say. Didn't you just spend 3 minutes roasting everyone who fixates on weapons? Yes, I did, and I stand by every word of it. But here's the thing, this tip isn't actually about weapons, it's about currency, so stay with me. In Sarajevo, civilians who owned firearms quickly discovered that their existing supply of rounds was laughably inadequate for a multi-month urban siege, and the reason wasn't constant firefights. It was because ammunition became money. When there's no banking system, no functioning economy, no reliable way to trade goods, ammunition became one of the most trusted forms of barter. People traded rounds for food, for medicine, for information, for safe passage. It had standardized value, it was universally understood, and it was desperately needed. This isn't a video encouraging anyone to stockpile weapons irresponsibly. What it is saying is that if you already legally own firearms, your existing ammunition supply is probably less adequate than you assume. 1 or 2 boxes in a drawer is not a meaningful reserve in a prolonged emergency. And more practically, ammunition disappears from store shelves incredibly fast, even during minor social unrest. So even if the barter angle doesn't interest you at all, and your only concern is basic personal protection, a responsible reserve still matters, because the moment things get uncertain, the shelves empty, and you don't want to be the easy target when they do. The fourth tip is the one that makes people laugh when they hear it, and then immediately stop laughing when they think about it for 2 seconds. Batteries. All of them. Every size. Gone. During the Sarajevo siege, batteries became one of the most precious commodities in the city, and when you think about everything that runs on batteries during a grid-down scenario, it starts to make complete sense. Flashlights, radios, especially radios, because that's often your only source of information about what's actually happening. Medical devices, children's safety lights at night, handheld communication devices, electronic door locks. Survivors described batteries being sold and traded at prices that sound absolutely insane in normal times. People were cracking open old electronics just to salvage the cells inside. Battery-powered radios were genuinely life-saving because they kept people informed about where aid was being distributed, where it was safe to move, what was coming next. The solution here is 2 layers. First, stock up on quality batteries in the sizes you actually use. AA and AAA cover the vast majority of devices. Get more than you think you need because you are, statistically speaking, dramatically underestimating how many batteries your household actually relies on. But the second layer is the smarter, long-term move. Invest in a good solar charging system and a set of quality rechargeable batteries. A small solar panel and a bank of in-loop-style rechargeables means you have essentially an infinite battery supply as long as the sun keeps showing up, which so far it has been pretty reliable about doing. And lastly, this is the one people almost never talk about and might genuinely be the most important one on this entire list: prescription medications and basic first aid supplies. During the siege, pharmacies were overwhelmed and emptied within the first week. Insulin, blood pressure medication, antibiotics, basic wound care, all of it gone. Here's the brutal reality nobody wants to sit with. Chronic conditions don't pause for emergencies. Diabetes doesn't care that there's a siege happening. Heart conditions don't take time off because the supply chain collapsed. Infections from minor wounds that would be completely trivial with antibiotics become life-threatening when there's nothing available. So what can you actually do? Talk to your doctor honestly about maintaining a small emergency supply of any critical prescription medication. Many will work with you on this. Keep a first aid kit that goes well beyond band-aids, wound irrigation supplies, quality antiseptics, a tourniquet, and basic over-the-counter medications like antihistamines, antidiarrheals, and pain relievers. It's not glamorous, it doesn't make for exciting content, but of everything on this list, a gap in medication supply is the one most likely to cause a serious and irreversible outcome. So there it is, 5 simple, life-saving supplies that will help you when it matters most. Not anything that requires a special license or a secret handshake, just practical, boring, critically important supplies that real people in a real war zone desperately wished they had thought about earlier. The Sarajevo survivors weren't telling us to panic, they were telling us to prepare quietly, sensibly, and now, while the shelves are still full, while the prices are still normal, while it still feels unnecessary. Because the gap between this feels unnecessary and I wish I had done this is always shorter than you think, and it closes fast. Start with water containers this week, add fuel storage next month, work through the list at whatever makes sense for your budget. And if this video gave you something useful, subscribe, share it with someone you actually care about, and for the love of everything, send it to that one family member who still thinks their plan is just, I'll figure it out when it happens. They won't, but now at least you might.